Sounds
Get
good.
it out. We can rock it out. All right, let's get it. Yo, 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 everybody. Thank you for joining us. We have a very special edition of the Hammer Fist this week. I got my boy E with me. E, what's good?
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good, man. Chilling, chilling. We're
Good.
coming at you. We're coming at you guys in video form this week. I think we've done one of these before. Haven't we've done one of these before? Maybe not.
I want to say we have like early on.
Yeah, I think we have
Yeah.
done one of these. It's been a while, but I mean, we got UFC 251 Fight Island. I mean, this card can't get any crazier. We got three title fights, and then just some heavy hitters as far as names are concerned, and
Yep.
everywhere else. So I mean, this is gonna be real crazy. As always, E, is there anything that you maybe want to just touch on real quick or anything like that before we get rolling, my man?
Well, every once in a while we'll get these cards, but it's fairly rarely that we see a card, especially for Draftkings or Fanduel, where we get three title fights. And especially on a slate like this, where we have the Millie Maker on Draftkings, where like 45% of the prize pool goes to first place, and then we have some big GPPs on Fanduel. You're really gonna have to get contrarian in some lineups this week, unless you're willing to tie with like 50 to 150 people. You're really gonna have to take some chances and just kind of make a few lineups that you're expecting to be dead right off the bat, but if they hit, they're really going to separate you from the pack this week. Because, like I said, like there's a lot of obvious plays, but they're all going to be insanely chalky. So,
Yep.
especially GPP, we're going to have to separate ourselves somewhere.
Yep. No, I totally agree. I think I like to use it like it's like a super top heavy kind of card. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like it's just super top
agreed.
heavy. There's going to be a lot of chalk, I think, and I mean it's no
Yep,
secret, guys. We have three title fights. They're going to carry heavy ownership. Like that's no secret. And we'll talk more into that and some edges and just some stuff like
yep.
that as well. But yeah, man. Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
All right, so looks like we have 13 fights this week. Looks like I want to say at least all the title fights are on. I want to say did Rosa miss weight or did she have to weigh in a couple of times? I know something was going on with that.
Mello missed weight by 6 pounds.
Mello missed weight. That's what
Yeah,
it was.
Mello and Paiva both missed.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll talk about that here in the second fight. But up first here we got Davy Grant going up against Martin Day. Let's see here. Currently looks like let's see. Davy Grant I'm showing at least on 5 dimes is the plus 145 dog here, and
Mhm.
Martin Day is the 165 favorite. This one, I mean, we kind of were talking about this one a little bit, and I'll let E do his thing too. But at least for me, and I know we're kind of on this one. I mean, Day does have some decent takedown defense. You know what I mean? If you're looking at stats, and if you're looking at like fight metric and that kind of stuff, I can kind of show you guys here. He's got like some decent takedown defense. Just that. But this fight, for the most part, I'm gonna try to get away with fading it. I'll
Yeah,
probably be paying about 50 lineups though this week, and it might go up. These cards that get so tricky, I usually like to, especially on pay per views, I usually
yeah.
like to get funky on a few builds. I'd like to say, but for the most part, I'll be trying to fade this one, man. So I won't dive too much into it. I'll give you the prices, and then I'll switch it up to E. But you got Martin Day coming in at 8,500, and you got Davy Grant coming back at 7,700. What you got on this one, my man?
Yeah, I completely agree with fading this fight for the most part. Like if you're playing the Millie Maker and you're throwing 25 plus lineups in it, like that's rostering somebody from this fight is a great way to separate yourself. But like it's hard to envision either of them finishing on the optimal lineup unless they get a finish and score well over 100 points. It just, I mean, Day is going to have a significant striking advantage here. It's just that we've seen him taken down in the past, and he's been controlled by the bigger, stronger guys, which Davy Grant is. And then with Davy Grant, he really sells out for the takedowns in all his fight. His striking's really poor, but as we know, grappling scores well in DraftKings and FanDuel.
Right.
So if you're going to roster anybody from this fight, I would give a slight lean towards Grant. But unless you're making a ton of lineups, I really think you can get away with fading it. And same thing on FanDuel, especially at their salaries. There's too much value around them.
Yeah. One thing that I did put here is something's got to give with this fight though, you know, because you do
Yeah,
have Day here who's got decent takedown defense. You know, you got Grant who's pretty much landing like just under 3 a fight, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
something definitely has to give here. And I agree. Like I think if you're gonna go somewhere, especially if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I'll have more Grant than anything. I don't. I would venture that even though Day is the favorite here, and with odds like that in MMA, I don't really consider that like you know too significant.
agreed.
But I think Grant might carry a little bit of ownership, man.
I think he
So
will too, like especially with like the really sharp players that play with a big bankroll. I think he'll have some, especially as a contrarian playing GPPs. I
yep,
think a good. I want to say like I doubt he'll be over 25%, but I think he'll be somewhere in that like 17 to maybe even 15 to 20. But
yeah.
and with Day, like what do you think? 12, 15?
Under 12. I think
Yeah.
under 12.
He's
Yeah.
just in that no man's land where there's so many good fighters with high
Mhm.
upside around him, or it's almost impossible to prioritize them, like you said, unless you're making a bunch of lineups.
Yep. You would have to be like, all right, I'm throwing these lineups away in
Yeah,
hopes that something crazy happens right off the
exactly.
bat.
Yep.
And something that I mentioned in like chat, it's like we can't recommend that you do anything crazy in hopes that something crazy happens. Like that, you know.
Yep.
So, but no, yeah, for sure, I agree with you there. I agree with you on Grant, 15 to 20. I'd say he'll probably be up about 20. So that's
Yep.
pretty sharp there, my man. Yeah. Anything else before we move on?
I think that's it.
Cool, cool. All right, so next up we have the fight that we were just talking about. We have Vanessa Mello going up against Carol Rosa. Mello did miss weight as we were just talking about. Looks like here, excuse me. Currently, she is Rosa's the minus 250 favorite. I'm showing here, and Mello is the plus 210 dog.
Yep.
This one actually this one's interesting. I know both of us kind of feel the same way about this one. Um, I think Rosa's actually pretty decent play here if you're trying to get different. But not only that, I think she'll also. I just think she's gonna carry some low ownership because she's
Mm-hmm.
what we're talking about, kind of in that no man's land where, you know, you're gonna have to play her and you're gonna have to fade. You know, some of these other people in that top range, you're gonna have to fade Rebos, right? You're gonna have to
Yep.
fade, probably, yeah, like you're gonna have to fade one of the 3 title fights, you know, more than likely. And I just see a lot of people probably just going towards those title fights. I mean,
Agreed.
it's going to be hard not to with you know we got all of them going 5 rounds too. But I also think you know that Rosa can still. I think she can score pretty well, man. I mean, she's you know she
Yeah.
puts up a bunch of. I mean, at least in her last fight, she put up what like 170,
Yeah,
171
100. I
significant.
mean, yeah, she put up 170 strikes, a knockdown, and she scored 126 points in a 3 round decision.
Yeah, and
And
I could see her doing that
yeah,
again because this is going to be a stand up fight. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, oh yeah, 100%. And Melo doesn't move her head at all. She doesn't throw with that much output. It's my only concern for Rosa is she doesn't move her head as well,
Right.
and she ate almost 130 significant strikes in her last fight that she won. So that's my really only concern. But I mean, Melo missed weight by 6 pounds, so who knows how committed she is to this fight and where she is mentally. And also one other thing, I suggest everybody like tomorrow morning and then a couple hours before the fight starts, just double and triple check to make sure this fight is still on because 6 pounds is a pretty big margin, and sometimes we'll see those fights get canceled on fight day, especially if the fighter that missed weight keeps on ballooning back up. So just keep an eye on that. But I really like Rosa. I have her on the Draftkings cheat sheet. I think she makes a very interesting contrarian play off of Rebos, off of
Mhm.
Volkanovski, off of Jan. Because I mean, Volkanovski and Jan are, I mean, Volkanovski will be close to 50%. Jan will
Gotta
probably be
be.
over 35. So, and with Rosa, I mean, what do you think? Low 20s, high teens?
With Rosa, I'd say probably 20 to 25%.
Yeah,
I think I think she's one of those plays, and this is something that I haven't really touched on too much either. Some of these plays, as far as ownership, it's going to be dependent on what contest you're in as well, right?
agreed. Yeah,
And I think especially some fighters they tally that. And I think specifically Rosa, I think for sharp players, so if you're playing in maybe like some high dollar tournaments, she'll probably be a little bit higher owned. But I would say for the most part, yeah, we'll be looking at like 20. 25, if that, if
Yeah,
25, that might be pushing it too, because like I said, you got to be real sharp or willing to, risk
yeah.
that biscuit, man, to play her. So we'll see.
Yeah,
But
like
yeah,
like
that's
she
about
makes
right.
she makes a great GPP play for like a tournament where like the Millie Maker,
Holy
where
shit, she does.
all those 9K fighters are going to be chalky as hell. And if she goes out there and puts up, I mean, even if she scores 15 fewer points and puts up 110, like that's a very good chance that gets it done. Like let's
Yep.
say Volkanovski scores 105, something like that. I mean, then there's a good chance that she's right there in the optimal lineup with Usman.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
think it's one of those plays where you don't want to be too overweight just in case, because it's not like she's a lock, but at the same time, it's definitely worthy of rostering her in some of your lineups just because of that upside and also the low ownership.
Yeah.
And Mello, I have no real interest at all unless you're max entering 150 entry GPPs.
And praying. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah. And one more thing that I wanted to touch on too is Rosa, like these title fights, it's not a guarantee they go 5 rounds. Somebody could get starched right away, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And like he was talking about, you'll see 105 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's when it's like, okay, that's when she might be optimal, because she's for sure gonna give us a lot of significant strikes.
Right.
So we'll just have to kind of see how they roll. But
I
yeah,
wouldn't
man.
even be shocked if she landed a couple of takedowns in this fight. Like I'm not impressed at all with Melo's defensive grappling at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the path is there for a big score.
Yep. Yep. Just so everybody can see real quick what we were talking about here. There's there's her last score. She was cheap too. She was only
Yeah.
7,800 that last fight. She was
Yeah, she
cheap.
broke the slate. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. All right. So
Oh, and real quickly, one last thing.
yep.
She's really cheap on FanDuel. She's like all the way down at $16. I mean, which
Oh, that's
is
right.
basically in the low end. So if you're playing on FanDuel this week, I think she makes a very nice play, especially at that salary.
Yep. Yep, for sure. Yep. Do you want to touch on FanDuel's salary real quick, or do you want to kind of do it along the way? Do you want to just like
Well,
tell them real quick on
we can
how
do
it's
it
real
along the way
funky?
as we get into each fight
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
because
Um,
it's a lot different than Draftkings salary this week.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, so next up we got Ruling Paiva, my guy. If you don't know this guy, just Google it. You'll see what I'm talking about. This guy's a beast, man. I don't know how they stitched that bad boy up so quick, but
No, that cut was gross.
it was gnarly, man. It was gnarly. And then we got Zlagas Zamagulov. There we go. It was close.
Nice
Uh,
job.
right? It was close, man. I'm getting there. Paiva is let me go back to the actual numbers here, because I don't really, FC is always a little off. So we got Paiva, who is right now the minus 165. It's been changing a little bit, and then you got Zlagas coming in at plus 155, currently on 5 dimes. And this one, man, this one's pretty straightforward. I feel like I think Paiva really should be able to get this done. I don't feel like there's too much to really break down in the fight, especially as far as DraftKings is concerned. Because I mean, I'll be playing, like I said, about 50 or so. But I mean, as far as pricing is concerned, you got Paiva, who's 8,700. That's a tough price.
Yeah,
Like I said, it's just so loaded right there. It's tough.
yeah.
And then on the flip side, you got Zlagas at 7,500. So it's just tough. But if you were gonna pick one, Paiva would be the play here. And I mean, like, the dude can put up a good score. You know what I mean? But I'm not really gonna risk my money so early in the card on him. Not a lot, at least. I'll probably try to have some shares just in case something happens. But personally, I'll probably be like 10 to 15% on him.
Yeah.
What do you think, man?
Yeah,
I
I
just think
left
it's a bad
Paiva.
matchup too.
Yeah, I left Paiva off the DraftKings cheat sheet, but if you're making a bunch of lineups, you want to throw him in a couple for possible finishing
Like, why
upside. I don't
not?
mind it. It's just like he has a solid skill set. It's just he hasn't really beaten anybody that's very good. His only win in the UFC is Mark De La Rosa, who isn't even in the UFC anymore after losing 4 in a row.
Did they cut him?
Um,
They
I'm,
got
I'm
him.
pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he got released, or
Oh
he's
man,
going to if he didn't.
he will.
But
Yeah,
and like I said, Paiva does have a nice skill set. He fights nice and long, has underrated power, has really good jiu-jitsu. He doesn't move his head much, so he's very hittable. And against a guy like Zamagulov actually has some really good wins on his record, like Tyson Nam, who's just came off an impressive UFC win, and he's beaten a lot of the guys on the Russian regional scene who have fought and competed for UFC titles in the past. It's this in this matchup. My main concern for Zamagulov is the size difference here. Paiva's going to fight much longer. He has a few inches of reach, and now Paiva missed by 3 pounds, so he's going to be even
huge.
stronger now. Yeah. So if you're gonna if you're making, let's say you're only making 10 lineups and you want to roster and you want to have some action in this fight, like I kind of like Zamagulov's salary at 7,500 just because we know he's gonna, like, if you look at all his fights, he fights his ass off. He's always in his opponent's face. He throws a good output, has good cardio. And so I think there's definitely a path to victory there. It's just I liked him a little bit more in the week before I realized how big the size difference was for Paiva, and obviously with Paiva missing weight by a few pounds, that makes a big difference as well. But like you said, I'm going to be very low weight on Paiva, and then I have Zamagulov on the sheet as a GPP play. But if you're making 5 or few lineups, like I don't even think you need to touch this fight. And same thing on Fanduel.
Yep, I'm with you. So not even worth going over their prices on Fanduel. So, yep.
Yeah, no. Like unless you're making 50 lineups on Fanduel, just the way that scoring is done on Fanduel, it's just this fight isn't conducive to a nice score there.
Yep. I would agree, sir. All right, we'll move on here. We got the big boys coming up next. We got Maxim Grishin going up against Marcin Tybura. People probably remember the name. Just he's fought recently. He is this one's a pick'em here. I basically have it here as a pick'em. I think there are some odds though. I'm pretty sure what was it, like 113. And we got minus 110 for Marcin, and then you got plus 100 for Maxim. So I mean, it's like I said, it's basically a pick'em. If it's not, it will be there. Probably come fight night. But yeah, this one, man, these heavyweight fights are interesting because they can always finish quick, like we've seen recently, or they'll be like a sloppy ass 3-round fight where these guys are just like after the first round and their power shots, it's just sloppy as shit. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's kind of a toss up. I think both guys are kind of boom or bust. Again, this is a fight that I'm honestly going to try to get away with not having too much of. The only thing that makes me nervous is they're kind of in a sweet spot as far as pricing at 7,900 and at 8,100. And so if something does happen and one of these guys do get to finish quick at that pricing, they're going to be optimal because we're probably going to see a knockdown, right? And then some punches. I mean, that's could be optimal there. So for that reason, I'll probably have just a little bit, just so I can have enough to feel safe if something does happen. But I think I'm gonna probably try to get by with not having too much of it and putting a lot of my shares other places. What do you think? What do you think on this one?
Yeah, I left both these guys off the cheat sheet just because there's so many other good plays, but it definitely does have some sneaky upside for both guys. Like if this fight was 2 years ago, I would be all over Tybura in this spot. Like with Grisham, like he's a 205er, first of all, who's moving up in weight to heavyweight. He has a big time hole in his defensive grappling, especially his wrestling. And Marcin Tybura is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He has underrated wrestling himself. It's just, I think Tybura is right on the verge of being done. He's looked horrific his last few fights. He's been knocked out in 3 of his last 5. And Grisham does have some decent striking, some clean striking. So if you're going to roster anybody, if you're only making like, let's say 5 to 10 lineups, I would probably lean towards Grisham just because I think if he's going to win, it's going to have to be by early KO or he's going to get just grinded out for 3 rounds. But then again, Tybura does have some sneaky possible upside at that salary through takedowns and grappling. Right. I actually kind of like the fight more in Fanduel just because Tybura is all the way down at $14, which is tied for the 4th cheapest, and then Grisham's at 16. And because FanDuel awards first round finishes so highly, again, I would slightly lean towards Grisham. But I guess both guys are in play. It's just there's other fights I like more to target, but this definitely does have possible contrarian upside to it.
Yeah. No, yep, I'm with you. One thing that I did see too here is Tybura, he just doesn't score well, dude. Like, I
Mm-mm.
mean, he's knocking dudes out, scoring 80s and shit. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And like, I guess he hasn't also in any, he's never had like a first round knockout either,
yeah,
and so that's part of it. But I mean, it's just I don't see that path happening here either. Like, I don't see a quick knockout
agreed.
happening here either. It's gonna
Yeah.
be one of those grind out, maybe a second or
It's
third
either going to
round.
be like a slow-paced wrestling decision, or he'll find a sub late in the third round after Griffin's completely gassed. But it's just he's looked so bad the last year and a half, and his chin looks like crap. His
Yep.
cardio's look bad, so it's just I think he's like right on that verge of being completely done.
Yep. Yep. No, I'm with you, man. I'm definitely with you there. All right, all right. So I guess one thing that is worth mentioning as well, because I know we have some people here who are probably looking at the numbers. So these fights we don't really have anything significant as far as inside the distance props on really any of these fights here, to tell you the
Mm-hmm.
truth. Now that's interesting because just from my experience, I'm sure he can kind of tell you the same thing. There's some fights here that I'm pretty sure about to end early. You know what
Oh
I'm
yeah,
saying?
for sure.
But the odds don't say that. So just to throw it out there, this fight, this Tybura fight, it does have a minus 120 inside the distance prop. That is low. Not to say I don't disagree with that, but I'm mentioning it because that's just the fact of the matter, not because I think we should target it, just because I just wanted to throw
Correct.
that out there for you guys. So.
Agreed.
But all right. Next up, we have Roman Bogotov going up against Leonardo Santos, and I'll let you crank this one off after I give him the numbers and all that good stuff here. We have
Sounds good.
Santos currently at the minus 175 favorite, and then coming back, we have Bogotov at the plus 155 dog. On DraftKings, it looks like as far as pricing is concerned, we have 8,800 for Santos and 7,400 for Bogotov. And one thing I do just want to say quickly is just you can see we're three, four fights into the card. You can see already 8,500, 9,200, 8,700, 8,800. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have to pick some spots here. And I honestly like that FanDuel, or I'm sorry, that DraftKings has done that, because they're not gonna allow you to load up on the three
Yeah,
title fights and then just do whatever you want from there. Like, even if you go
agreed.
all dogs there, you're gonna have to still kind of make some plays.
Mm-hmm.
So but what do you got on this one, my man?
Yeah, well, first of all, like Leo Santos is probably, if not the most underrated fighter in all of MMA, he's definitely one of the top two underrated fighters in the UFC. I mean, this guy, he just fights so infrequently because he can't get fights. He's just turned 40 years old, doesn't have a huge name, and it's just risky for ranked fighters to fight him because honestly, if he was 35 years old, I think he could easily become champion at lightweight. This guy's world class BJJ, really good wrestling, big time power in his hands. His striking's really improved technically over the last few years. His last KO for Stevie Ray was really sick on a counter pull shot. It's just he throws with such low output and wrestles with such low output that if he doesn't get a finish, that salary is going to completely bust on DraftKings.
Yep.
But with Bogatov, I mean, all he really has is a chain wrestling game. His striking isn't good at all. I'm not a huge fan of his cardio or the opponents that he's beaten. And against a guy like Leo Santos, like if all you have in your arsenal is chain wrestling, like you're gonna get tapped at some point.
Yeah, because yeah.
So, and it's just Leo. He's just so good in all different types of spots. Like maybe Father Time has caught up to him at his advanced age, but he fights so infrequently that it's not like he's taking damage left and right. He doesn't take much damage in his fights to begin with. So I don't think age is going to be much of a factor here, considering that it's just if he doesn't get a finish, like I said, he's going to bust. But he does have big time upside if you look at his recent wins. It's just there's some other fighters I prefer over him. And with Bogatov, if you're making 25 plus lineups and you want to roster him for possible wrestling upside, that's fine. But besides that, I have no interest on DraftKings and on FanDuel. We have Santos as the third most expensive fighter at 19. That's a little pricey, but he still has some finishing upside. And Bogatov is all the way down at $12. So maybe if he can get 5-6 takedowns and hold him down on the way to a decision, that will do something. But I don't see Bogatov finishing or putting up a huge score in general. So I don't really have any interest in him, like I said.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much with you there. The only The only thing as we kind of work our way through here is I'm wondering if it may warrant like if you are playing even if you're just playing like a handful of lineups, it may warrant to play a lineup and we were talking about go contrarian and I mean go contrarian, man, because
Yeah.
there are some of these fights like we said like they could pop. This is one of like
Oh
Santos
yeah.
could pop. He is 100% boom or bust, and I'm still that from your sheet because I think that's what it says there. He's boom or
Yep.
bust. I just totally agree with you there, brother. I totally do.
Yeah.
I just think, but it's shit. This is a card I think you kind of got to get freaky, and then
Yep.
hope something wonky happens in one of these main events because uh, I think we've gotten close enough and we've been talking for long enough that if you're still listening, you can take these nuggets at this point. But
Yeah.
it, I think there's going to be so much ownership on the main event and on the other two title fights that like dude if you it's just they're ties. It's going to be a bunch of ties, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like that's
And
just all it's gonna
you're not gonna be tying with 10 or 20 people. You're gonna be tying with 50 to
thousands.
hundreds of people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like so
hundreds or
just
thousands for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep, especially if it's like a chalky build, you know what I mean? If it's a chalky build, or even if because I can see some people. Every week people talk about. I get a question like, "Oh, should I stack this fight in GPPs?" And I have to tell people every week like, "Don't do it."
Yeah.
We're gonna see stacks in GPPs this week. I
Oh, big
guarantee it.
time. Yeah, big time.
So it's
Yeah,
just
because a lot of people like Ruster, Usman, or Jan, and then they'll stack Volkanovski and Max, and like that's going to be insanely chalky. So let's say if you do the lineup, then you're probably throwing Andrade at 7,200, who's going to be insanely chalky, and it just you're not separating yourself from the field at all, no matter what happens and with those fighters.
yep, 100%. Let's see here. Let's see here. So this is just cause I got FC running here and just cause so if you lock in Volk and Usman right now, you can get Aldo, which I mean I don't know why I would give you that. You can get Tybura, Zlagas is giving you, and Rebos, which is where I mean I hate all those plays to tell you the truth,
Yeah,
but I mean it just goes to show you how like you can get basically three 9K fighters, pretty much an 8K fighter, and then go dirt cheap. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
like it just shows you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. And so I mean, like pretty much all the builds, especially with those two, but even with you want to you well, I mean, and look, the third fight is in there with all those, but you can throw Jan in there instead of Rebos, and I mean, pretty much get the same shit and do whatever you want. So
And agreed. And that's the other tricky thing about this card is that I mean, besides two or three fighters, like just about everybody's in play if you're making multiple lineups.
yeah,
So it's kind of one of those cards where like it probably make even though in the end of the night if it doesn't pay up, it doesn't pay up, but it probably makes sense to take a stand on like a fighter that you think's going to be fairly low owned that has big time upside and just kind of be overweight on that because like we said earlier, it's just there's so many people in play and there's so many obvious spots that are going to be chalky that you're going to have to just kind of really limit your play pool at some point and take
hmm,
stands on fighters you think are going to go under the radar, like we talked about with Rosa and whatnot.
yep, for sure, for sure. But we won't keep harping. We'll move on here. So next up we have some featherweights. We have Danny Henry going up against Makwan Americani. Oh, look at that. See, I got that one, but that's because I know Makwan, man. I've been saying that for a long time. So yeah, we got Mr. Finland here. He is 8,600 on DraftKings, and Danny Henry is 7,600 on DraftKings. And if we want to check out their odds real quick, currently Makwan is the -192 favorite. I think that's gone up just a tad maybe. And then you got Danny Henry at currently the +177. I'll let you crank this one out. You want to start this one out, and then I'll go. What do you think on this
Yeah,
one, my man?
I think it should be a showcase fight for Mac One. He has a huge wrestling advantage, big time submission grappling advantage. It's like if you're backing Henry in this fight, it's like the only reason you're backing him is because you're counting on Mac One gassing out hard and Henry being able to turn it on late. It just I can't see that really. I think Mac One's wrestling is probably even better than Dan Ige's. I think Dan Ige's better everywhere else, but Ige ran through Henry on the mat. Henry's a slow starter. He really slows off start. starts off slow, excuse me, and then kind of picks it up and feasts when his opponent starts to slow down, like the Daniel Tamer fight. It's just this should be a really tailor-made matchup for Makwan. Yeah, like I said, he has big time grappling advantage, and I think he's going to get this done early. I'm going to go with Makwan by mid first round, early second round submission, and especially at salary on DraftKings, it's huge time upside. He's in my core GPP core in the DraftKings cheat sheet. Um, he's obviously going to have some ownership, but I think there's other fighters in that same range that will be more expensive. So I think I'm definitely going to be significantly overweight to him. But at the same time, he's definitely one of those fighters that isn't immune to pulling a stunt. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if, like, come mid third round in Abu Dhabi with the insane heat that it's going to be there, that if he just completely gassed and Danny got a finish, but this should be a crush spot, and I'm all over Makwan at this point. His salary on Fanduel is a little expensive at 19, but the way the scoring works there, he has huge upside, and I think he makes a sneaky MVP slot play off of all the other obvious championship fights. And with Henry, I don't have much interest at all unless you're making 50 plus lineups, 25 plus lineups.
Yep. Yep. Really, I couldn't have said it better. The only thing that I want to add to that really is, there has been some money coming in on Henry. It looks like though, and I'm just saying that just because when I was kind of doing my thing, I always do like a final tally right before we do the podcast. I double check numbers and stuff like that, and I had it at minus 210. I had it at minus 210 here earlier, so. I mean, that's a little bit of money that I'm pretty sure is coming in on Henry because I think currently
Yeah.
Five Dimes has him at minus 195, and
Yep.
that's where I took it from minus 192. That's where I took it from. So that's interesting. Also, there's two fights that have any type of significant inside the distance prop, and this is one of them. If you want to call minus 165 kind of a significant prop, but it's the second highest of the night, so it's worth noting. But yeah, we got minus 165, and yeah, I mean, I also love the price tag on Makwan too, man. I think he can get it done.
Yeah.
He's
And
landed.
he has what, the second best inside distance odds on the card?
Yeah, yep.
If not the best. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, the next one is you got the Ozdemir fight at minus 195. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, you know what I mean, it's not far off. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think he can also get a few takedowns before he gets that finish. You know what I'm
Agreed.
saying? Like dude's getting at least 3 takedowns
Yeah.
per fight, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. And
yeah, I
he
like
looked
it.
very good in that Shane Burgos fight early on too before it gassed out.
Yeah, yep. The heat does worry me, man, because it
Yeah.
is hot, boy, and they are complaining about it being hot out there.
Yep.
But other than that, I'm totally with you. I think I'm gonna take a stand. Um, I think how I'm gonna do it this week, I'm probably gonna switch up my approach just a little bit this week, and I'm gonna probably play about 2 builds. And I think in one of my builds, I'm gonna be super heavy on Makwan, and even in my other
Yep.
build, I'm still probably gonna have about 40% of them. But I think in my other build, I'm gonna hammer him, man, and just hope he does his
Yep.
thing, and then hope that just sets me apart because like we'll keep hinting. It only takes
Yep.
one wonky thing to happen in these main events, and it could still it's like an early knockout, anything
Yep.
that just doesn't score as high as one of these fights, and that can set you apart because I
I
also don't see
completely agree.
Makwan. Yeah, no, I also don't see Makwan carrying a lot of ownership, man. Do you?
Mm. No, I think 100% he's going to be under 30%.
Yeah.
Like I don't see any chance at all that he's over 30. We may even get him as low as under 25, which would be a gift in my opinion.
Yep.
So like I said, I'm going to be significantly overweight. And if it kills me, it kills me. But this is a stand in a spot that I'm willing to die on the sword for.
Yep. Yep. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Let's get it. All right, brother. So next up we have Alizu Zaleski dos Santos, my boy, and then we got he's going up against Muslim Slikov. This is a good fight here, a welterweight fight. Pretty much this is that fight every week that both of these guys. It's interesting. There's two of them kind of this week because you got the Ty Burr fight and the Grisham
Yep.
fight. They're only $200 difference. But same for this one, only $200 difference. You got Slikov coming in at 8,200, and then you got Dos Santos coming in at 8K even. Looks like Dos Santos is let me see here. Yeah, Dos Santos is currently the plus 125 dog, and then coming back, Selaikov is the minus 135 favorite. This one's interesting. We were chatting about this one before we kind of got started. I was telling you that this was one I kept going back and forth on all week, and
Hmm.
it's just it is, especially for DraftKings. And then when you look at the pricing, it's one that it's just back and forth. Um, you know, I think if I had to, like, you put me in a blender, you force me to pick one. I'm gonna go with Salikov. Salikov. I think he's just probably has more paths to victory, man. I think Dos Santos, I think he might be wavering a little bit, and I hate saying that about
Yeah,
fighters and stuff like that. But sometimes you can just see when guys are just getting a little more tired and just
yeah,
starting to drag it just a little bit more. But yeah, other than that, this one is tough to call, so I'll kind of let E drop this one for you. What do you got on this one, man?
yeah. Like you said, it's a super close fight that carries big time upside for both fighters on it. So like if I if I was more confident that Dos Santos would come out with a wrestling heavy game plan, like I would be all over him and I'd probably core him. But
But he never
it just
does. It's
he
like, dude.
he lands like a half a takedown per 15 minutes. It's so hard to predict that he's just going to come out and die for legs in this fight. And like it's but with Salikov, he throws with such low output that if he doesn't get the KO, he's not going to score very well. So both guys have their flaws, but Dos Santos looked so bad in his last fight against Li Jiang that I'm going to give a slight lean towards Salikov as a straight up pick. But just from a fantasy standpoint, I'm gonna have both guys shares of both guys, but I'm gonna have slightly more Dos Santos just because I think if he does go for the takedowns, that he could probably get a couple, and that the submission should come fairly soon after he gets the takedown.
Yep.
So because of that, I'm gonna have slightly more of him, but it's definitely a fight that you need to have rostered, and it's probably a good idea to have shares of both guys. And I don't mind if you want to split it 50-50. I don't suggest that much, but it's one of those fights where it probably makes sense to have close to even shares of both guys.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with you there. And yeah, that is one thing too. Like, seriously, if Dos Santos just like tries to go for the takedowns and he gets the takedowns, I see the sub coming
Yeah.
pretty soon after that. I mean,
It'll look like the
like,
Curtis Millender fight.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So,
So
like, if Santos wrestles, he's going to look like he was a minus 500 favorite.
I'm
It
telling
just,
you,
it
it's so
just, we can't
frustrating.
predict that he can't do that. So,
Especially when like expect like as far as the numbers are concerned, like he's landing a good amount of significant strikes per minute, you
oh
know
yeah,
what I
oh
mean, and
yeah,
that kind of stuff too. And so of course, he it's like he's going to continue to do that, I would imagine. So
yeah,
that's why I say this one's tough to call, but yeah,
yeah.
you did good on that one, man. I just kept going back and forth, but it's definitely one that does carry high upside, and I think, yeah, you just probably got a 50-50 and hope for the best on either
Yeah,
one.
and same thing on Fanduel because we're only separated by $1. We have Solikov at 16 and Dos Santos at 15. So much like DraftKings, they're lined right next to each other, and it's just one of those fights where it makes sense to have shares of both guys.
Yep, yep, for sure. All right, we'll keep rolling. We got Yuri Prochaka going up against Vulcan Ozdemir here. This is a light heavyweight fight, and Vulcan is currently the favorite here. Looks like on Five Dimes they got Vulcan at Five Dimes is all over the place, but they got him at minus 145, and then they got Prochaka coming back at the plus 135 currently. This one, man, I like a lot of Ozdemir. I mean, it's not much really to break down on this one. There's a lot a lot of hype we were talking about coming in on Prochaka here. Like a lot of hype, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And this is like it's I would say the year of the hype, but it's it's like the year and a half of hype since it's been like a off year, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
it's like these guys come in hype, whether it's off the contender series or from another promotion, you know what I'm saying? And then they come in and a lot of the times on the contender series these guys do their thing, but when you're coming in from a different promotion and you've been fighting cans and stuff like that,
Yep.
like, you know what I mean, you come in and get starched, it gets to
Welcome to the
professional,
UFC.
period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yep. And I think I'll let you touch on that a little bit more, but the plays that I do have of Prochaka will be hedge plays,
yeah,
period, and that's pretty much how I'll be playing that. What do you got on this one, man? Oh, and this one's got a minus 195 inside the distance prop, as we kind of touched on earlier. So this, I'm pretty sure, will be the heaviest on the card.
yeah.
But yeah, what do you got on this one, bro?
Yeah, I like Volkan a lot in this spot. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you know how high I am on him and how high I have been on him in the past. He was rushed way too quickly to a title shot after a couple quick knockouts when he got into the UFC, and then went on to lose a couple fight skid. But he's really rebounded nicely. He's made some much needed changes to his game. He's much more patient. He's improved his wrestling, his cardio, and obviously we all know how dangerous his power is. He has really good timing, really, really underrated speed. Although I think Prochaka will probably have a slight speed advantage here. It's just with this is a brutal way to enter the UFC for Prochaka against a guy like Volkan Ozdemir, who's been competitive with Daniel Cormier, who got robbed against Reyes, won a decision against Alexander Rakic, has multiple quick KOs over top 10, top 5 ranked opponents. It's just Jerry Prochaka. He has very good boxing. He's a big dude for the weight class. Underrated power. He fights with his hands down, which is a huge issue, especially when you're fighting somebody like Volkan, because you just can't take unnecessary shots against a guy like Ozdemir. You're going to get knocked out. So I really think Volkan's going to get the job here done. And I also think he has some sneaky grappling upside because Jiri is awful off his back. And I also have some questions about his durability. A few years ago, he was knocked out by King Mo in the first fight. So that's always a concern. He's gotten tagged by much lesser opponents than Volkan in recent fights of his as well. So I just think it's a brutal way to enter the UFC, and Volkan's going to kind of give him that bet lesson and remind everybody of how good he is. So he is in the GPP core with Makwan Amerikani and Kamaru Usman. I don't hate Volkan in cash. It's just I wouldn't be completely shocked if Jiri clipped him. So I prefer more as a GPP play. And on FanDuel, he's up at $17, but he's very live to a first round finish here, and that's gold on FanDuel. So I love him. And with Jiri, I have him on the cheat sheet as a mass entry GPP play for making over. If you're making over five lineups, you can roster him, but I really wouldn't make a stand on him unless you're making over 15, 20 lineups, just because there's a very good chance that it gets sparked out very quickly here.
Yep. Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. Like, for sure. He could get sparked quick. I'm telling you, like, people forget quick about that power, man. You lose to two great fighters. Because like, you can kind of say what you want, but like, Anthony Smith has fought for a title, and if we're gonna be 100, he's probably gonna fight for it again here soon. So yeah.
And I think Jerry's going to be successful in the UFC. This is a brutal way to enter it. So I think he's going to take that loss here, but he is going to be a very good fighter in a few years.
Yep, for sure. All right, man. All right, and we're doing pretty good here. Only about 40 minutes for a video pod. That's about normal for us. We can roll. We can roll. But this is a card, especially for a pay-per-view. Like, you want to get the takes on all of these because it's going to help you make your decisions. And we're getting to the meat and potatoes here, where it's going to really become important. And really, it actually starts with this next one here. As we segue in, we got Amanda Ribas going up against Paige Van Zant. Paige Van Zant is is one of the cheapest. She is the cheapest fighter on the card at 6,700, and then on the flip you got Ribas at 9,500. Looks like Ribas is currently the minus 750 favorite, and not much to be said about this one. Me and E are kind of in agreement, I think, on how we're going to be playing this one. I think Ribas is pretty much fade here. Yes, she should dominate. Yes, she should win this fight. But I don't think she's going to be scoring in these hundreds and the 110s and 120s. I just don't think she's going to do that. And if we just simply wanted to look at like scoring and just like her history, even in like her dominating wins, you know what I mean, where she's putting up a lot of stats, you would think 94, 77 at 7,900, which is decent. And then when she came in that first fight, she was cheap and she scored the 99.5, but that's not going to do it this week. I can just tell you right now. It's not. So do you got anything more you want to add on this one, brother?
Yeah. Like you were saying, as Ribas is the most expensive fighter in DraftKings, like she's going to have to put up minimum 115, 120 minimum, because there's so many high scoring fighters that are priced under. He's the fate of the night on my Draftkings cheat sheet. If you're doing mass entry GPP and you want to take a few shots, that's fine. She's one of the safest plays on the card. So if you want to roster her in cash, that's fine. It's just, I can't go out of my way to roster her with all the other studs that we have. And then with Paige, I'm making 20 lineups. I doubt I'll have her in any. Maybe I'll throw in one just to be ultra contrarian. But yeah, I think this is a fight that if you're making under 25 lineups, I think this is a fight you could probably full fade in GPP.
Yep. No, I agree with you.
Same thing on Fanduel.
Yep. Even in cash, like at 9,500, do you think she'll hinder your lineup when people are probably going to be like double stacking and shit like that? We'll probably see double.
Yeah, because I mean, you could easily save some money and go down to Jan, or I mean, even obviously Usman's going to be chalky. People will stack Volk versus Holloway. Mm-hmm. So I know Amir Khani will probably be somewhat chalky in cash.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's too many options to go to your way to roster unless you want to make a completely contrarian lineup.
Yep. Yeah,
but if you're making a rebus lineup, I would probably fade the rest of the 9K fighters. Or else you're gonna have to punt like 3 times.
Yep.
So
and hope for some crazy shit to happen. And don't do it. It's
negative Usman would have to bust. Volkanovski would have to bust. Jan would have to bust. Rosa would have to bust. Santos would have to bust. Like it's
Good luck. Right. Yeah. So we don't need to touch too much more on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. We got the rematch here. We got Jessica Andrade going up against Rose Namajunas. Thug Rose, man. That's my dog, man. That's my cousin. It's like, I'm just kidding. She's minus 205 here. Well, no, I'm sure that's changed. Let's see where she's at for real, because FC's always off. Oh no, she's minus 200. Yeah, she's minus 200. And then we got Jessica Andrade coming back at plus 185. Rose is 9K, so she's this one. Well, let me give you the numbers first. So she's 9K, and then you got Jessica Andrade. She's 7,200. So this one we've been talking about, for a while, and then when we see the numbers and we see the pricing and all that stuff come out, it's kind of interesting that Rose is so heavily favored. I can't really figure out why, except for maybe recency bias because Jessica lost. Because Jessica lost the belt, and then I guess, and maybe lost it pretty quick. But I mean, she just got clipped. She wasn't ready for it. She just got clipped. So I think it's just crazy, and I'll let you kind of talk more about that too, because I know you got some points to touch on that. But the best thing I could say about this fight is I think Rose, you can take some shots on Rose, you know what I mean, and I'll have some shots on Rose. She's kind of in that spot at 9K where you can hope she might be able to outscore some of those people, but it's probably I'll probably really go elsewhere. Andrade really should be in that 9K range in my opinion. And then in that case, I'd be taking some shots on Rose. But I think at 7,200, I think Andrade, for sure, DraftKings, she's got the wrestling, which, she's got the grappling. That's what we want. I can tell you right now, that's what she's going to look for, because she's not going to want to stand and take shots from Rose. She might try to get in the pocket, and deliver some damage like that and to set up the takedowns. But I think she knows that she can eventually get her down, and that might rack up some points. This is a 3-round fight, so it's not a 5-round fight, so that makes things a little bit different too. But yeah, what do you got on this one, man?
Yeah, like you said, like the odds don't make any sense at all to me, because in the first fight, Andrade closed as a minus 125 favorite, won by KO, and is now a plus 190 underdog. Like I don't.
Less than a year later, right?
Yeah,
like that.
And Rose hasn't fought since then, and then obviously we all know that Rose can deal with some mental health issues at times. And so who knows where her head's at. She had some weird interviews after she lost that fight, saying that she was very relieved that she isn't a champ anymore, and that she doesn't have to worry about carrying the strap around with her and people coming after her. So, and she's recently had 2 family members pass away from the coronavirus. She left Colorado for this camp, which I don't like at all. She did her camp in Minnesota with Pat Barry, which I really don't like at all. So obviously she's very talented. She's a former champion for a reason. It's just I didn't like this matchup for her in the first fight, and I don't like it for her in the rematch. So I like Andrade a lot, especially at 7,200 on DraftKings. Like, even if she loses, she could easily put up 50 points in a loss, which is great for cash. And obviously, she has knockout upside on the feet. And then she knocked Rose out with a slam in that first fight. And she has a big time grappling upside. And there was a big narrative going around that Rose dominated that first fight and that it was a fluke knockout with a slam. But that couldn't be further from the truth, because that fight was completely changing on its head before the finish came. Like, Rose was already slowing down late in the second round, early third round. Jessica was landing more and more big shots. She was getting into the pocket. She was landing takedowns, and it was pretty much clear as day that you could see she was going to take over that fight as the rounds went on. So I do have some concerns that 3 rounds helps Rose here. But at that salary of 7,200, I'm going to have a lot of Andrade, and then I'll obviously roll it back with a couple Rose lineups. But I really like Andrade in this spot. It's just she can be a bit chinny. So I wouldn't be shocked if she got put down by Rose, but that salary is too juicy to pass up. And like you said with Rose, at that salary, she's put up good scores in the past, so maybe she can put up 110, 115 in the finish and outscore Volkanovski and Jan. It's just, who knows where her head's at this point in her career, especially with the personal issues in her life. And also, she hasn't fought since she's got brutally knocked out by Andrade, and now is immediately fighting Andrade again. So who knows where she's at. So give me a lot of Andrade, and obviously Namajunas is a fine play, but I would not roster her in cash at all, just GPP.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think one thing that's important to touch on too is like, holy shit, can we like look at the girl's scores? Look at Andrade's scores when she wins. I'm talking about
Yeah.
150s, 130s, 120s, 119s. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of that comes because it's her style. And these are indecision wins. Like, you know what I mean? And like we just saw like now Tisha Torres, she looked Tisha looked real good in her last fight.
Yeah.
And in 2018, she you know, Tisha she just looked real good. She did not look this good when she fought Andrade back in 2018, but I think that's another that's just a bad matchup. I think that's just
Yeah.
a bad matchup for her too every day of the week. So, but still, I mean, you know, like she, you know, this girl can put up some monster numbers here, man. So, I
And even,
think,
yeah, even if she loses, we know she's going to go out there and fight her ass off, no matter
yeah,
what. Win or lose, she's going to go out there and give it all shot she has. And I'll invest my money on fighters like that all the time.
yep, yep, I'm with you. And yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, I just don't like that. I just don't like that Rose is out here training with Pat, man. It's her husband,
Yeah,
and
not at all.
that's just how's that working, bro? You know what I'm saying? I
Not at
don't know.
all.
I even I saw Wyman. He was like he was talking about how he didn't train her and how it was weird how he kind of had to sit back and watch, but how he was proud of the way.
Yeah, I saw that too. Like, I didn't understand that interview.
I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah, like I don't get it. Like, no, no, no.
One and one last thing before we move on, like,
Hmm.
we already know that Rose was slowing down in that first fight after 2 rounds, and she trained at elevation in Denver for that fight. So now
Yeah.
that she's not in elevation, the temperature is probably going to be close to 90 degrees, if not over that, by the time that they fight. And especially with the pressure and the pace that Andrade pushes, like, the recipe's there is for Andrade to win again.
Yep.
But like we talked about with a couple other fights on the card, it's definitely a fight where you should probably have shares of both fighters.
Yep, I agree, and I do agree with you as well. I would so the only thing about the knockout, as far as fluky, I think was the way it happened.
Yeah, yeah,
But it definitely the tides were turning
yeah.
100%. I think that was clear. And anybody who doesn't see that is just not wanting to see it. So
Correct.
that's like, but all right, all right. So next up, so here we go, man. Here we go. It's the nitty gritty. And one thing I want to say too, as we let me get the mic back up. One thing I want to say too, is I believe now this is just a hunch, but I believe that a lot of people will save, and I've talked about it a couple times, but I mean more so just the main card period. And I want to say the main card starts off with the
Yeah.
Rebos fight.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I think a lot of people are gonna save their just lineups period for this main card. I just
Oh,
really believe that's
100%.
what's gonna happen. So with that being said, you know you also have to play these guys, right? Like this is not a card where I don't think you can get away with playing just one lineup. Now cash, yeah, you can play cash, but I mean like as far as tournaments are concerned. And I kind of
Oh
preach
yeah,
this as well. I mean, you gotta play a couple of lineups and get some combinations in there, and
yeah,
this is definitely one of those cards.
yeah,
So we'll see, but I just wanted to touch on that real quick, especially as we get into these three title fights, because I also want everybody to remember that these are all 5 round fights. Every single one of these next three
yeah.
fights are all 5 round fights. So let's get it. But so yeah, first up for the bantamweight title, we have Jose Aldo OG going up against Peter Yan, and Peter Yan he's the clear favorite here. Peter Yan currently is -215, and Aldo is +195. And yeah, I mean, people are kind of hot about Jose getting this title shot, but it's like I don't know. I dig it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a
Yeah.
new division for him or whatever, but I mean, I
I
dig
thought
it.
he won his last fight.
Yeah, I'm really not mad at it. Like
No.
it's gonna be a good fight, and it's not like Jan is just gonna come in here and style on him. Now I do
Right.
think he'll win the fight,
Yeah.
and I do think he can put up a big score too. But at 9,300, and then you got Jose Aldo coming back at 6,900. Yeah, I mean Aldo wins this fight 6,900. Like even if he wins the fight and just puts up an average of his significant strikes per
Yeah.
round, you know what I'm saying? Like he's gonna get over 100. And so
Oh
this
yeah.
is just yeah. I mean, it's all these title fights. Really, you got to have ownership to all of them. You got to have
Yeah.
ownership to all of them. This
Even
one,
Masvidal. Yeah.
so yeah, even Masvidal for sure. And oh god, I'm gonna in one of those builds I was telling you about. I'm gonna be a little heavier on Masvidal just on some.
Yeah.
I just hope
Makes
something
sense.
crazy.
Yeah.
I just hope something crazy happens, man, and we'll see. I'm willing to risk like $15 to
Oh
see
yeah.
what happens on it, but yeah, but yeah, I think Peter Yan is gonna be my pick here though, and I honestly think if I had to choose of the three title fights, I think Volk is pretty safe, but I think Peter Yan's pretty safe here for the dub, man. I think he's pretty safe here for the dub, but we'll
Yeah.
see. It's gonna be a great fight. What you got, man?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Obviously, I mean, everybody that knows me knows that I'm a massive Aldo fan. I think he's one of the three greatest fighters of all time.
Oh yeah,
It's just he's
Prime
compared to
Aldo.
yeah, like compared to where he was in his prime. It just he's really dropped a lot, and he's still very good. It's just he's nothing compared to his prime. And I actually think this fight is going to look eerily similar to the first Max Holloway and Jose Aldo fight, where Aldo kind of dominated that first round and the early part of the second round. And then as Max got into his groove and started putting in the pressure, throwing more strikes, getting Aldo's face, Aldo just started to wilt and eventually got put away in the third round. I think it's going to take Jan a bit longer to do that. Like I think Aldo has a very good chance to win the first 2 rounds of this fight and even possibly get a finish. But if he doesn't, I think he's beyond screwed because Jan just puts this pace and pressure on these guys. It just wilts them. And we know we've seen Aldo's cardio in the past in 5 round fights. His last few ones hasn't been the best, especially when he's facing a high output fighter like a Jan or a Holloway. So I do like Jan to win this fight. It's just I like Volkanovski more. I like Usman more. And then with Jose Aldo, I'm definitely gonna have some shares, but I like Andrade way more. And then like with the rest of the 7K punch, it's kind of like you just need all of them sprinkled in your lineups at some point. Like you're gonna need some Hospital, you're gonna need some Aldo, you're gonna need so obviously a good amount of Holloway because he can score well in a loss. So I'm definitely gonna have more Holloway and Andrade than Aldo, but he definitely does make sense to have some shares, like you said. And like both of us said, he's probably gonna get off to a big start, and if he gets a finish, he's gonna be on the optimal. If he can win the first 2 or 3 rounds and hold on to a decision, he should still put up 85 plus points.
Yep.
So the path is there. It's just I can't trust him to hold up to Peter Young's pressure through 25 minutes. And I think somewhere along the line, it's just going to wilt. And I think Young's going to get a late finish, possibly even late into the 5th round. But I'm not going to be too crazy on Yan ownership. I'm going to be underweight. I'll probably be 28 to 32%. And with Aldo, I'll probably be 20% max.
Yeah. I mean see, and this is where it does get tough too because I mean, it's like I think personally, the way that I'm going to try to play it is in most of my lineups. I think I'm going to try to fade one of these title fights, like, and I'll
Yeah.
probably just stagger it because it's hard to say which one. But um, if anything, I think see, because that main event, man, that shit could go either way too. It could be quick, but Usman usually likes to kind of, he usually kind of likes to play things out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think as far as the three, this one, am I crazy to think that this might be the lowest scoring of the
No,
three?
no, I completely agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
So
is Jan really going to put up 120 or 130? I highly doubt it.
right,
Like, let's say he wins a 5-round decision. I mean, probably what, 90 to 105, somewhere in there,
yeah,
maybe a little bit more,
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
110, 112. So with Volkanovski, obviously we know he has big time upside even in a decision, and Usman has all the upside in the world. I mean, especially at that salary.
oh, yeah,
So it's just tough. Like if you think Jan gets this done easily, it probably makes sense to be slightly overweight just because I think he's going to be the lowest owned between
sure.
Usman and Volkanovski. But I think this fight is going to be closer than people are saying, or especially early on in the fight. So I'm going to be slightly underweight to Jan and Aldo also.
Yep, yep. I'm with you. I'm with you. All right. So next up, we have the featherweight title. We got the rematch between Alex Volkanovski and Max Holloway. Man, this is. I'm honestly surprised that they ran this back and they ran it back so quick. There
Yeah,
must have been something in Max's contract though that he was like, if I lose this
yeah, true.
motherfucker, I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, I want that title, that immediate title shot. And you got to give the champ the respect because once a champ, always a champ. And so I mean, he deserves that shot
yeah.
again.
I have no issue
So
with him getting it.
no, yeah, no, me either. I will say though, I do think this is man, I do think this is like a gift almost from the
Yeah,
UFC, right? Because I think he's outmatched here. I just
yeah,
think Alex Volkanovski, I like we were talking about it, man. Like the top five of that division is pretty stacked, and I would
oh
think
yeah,
that they can probably all, if they were just to round robin each other, they'd be just beating each other. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
there'd be L's left and right, and so
oh yeah,
I just think Max's time is just kind of up as
yep,
far as the matchups are concerned right now for him in that division, and I just think that's how it's going to play out, man. So you got Max at 7,100. And then you got Alex Volkanovski coming back at 9,100. You got Max at plus 190, and Alex is minus 210 currently. So I just see this one going Alex's way. One thing I did that I've noticed just from watching interviews and stuff like that is Max doesn't seem to think that he needs to adjust too much.
yeah.
That's like, at least what I'm seeing. Like he feels like he won that fight,
I
and
don't
that
know how he thinks that, but
I know, and that he just needs to go out there and do what he did and do it more. You know what I'm saying? And
that makes me even more confident in Volkanovski. But,
yeah, for sure. And
yeah.
and and Volk knows that too. He's like this
Oh
guy's
yeah,
not gonna make any adjustments. Like
yeah,
so, I mean, yeah, I just see that one going that way. What do you got on this one, bro?
yeah. Well, I was all over Volkanovski in the first fight as a big underdog to Holloway, and
Yeah,
I
you were.
even said I said he was going to dominate that fight, and that's exactly what he did.
You
I think
did. You
I
did.
think you could give Holloway 1 round maybe, but I mean I've watched that fight Jesus four times this week, and I scored it 5-0 for Volkanovski every time.
You know,
So
every time.
like it just and like Max always has done very well against guys where he has a big time length advantage over, and obviously he has 5 inches of height on Volkanovski, but Volkanovski actually has a 2.5 inch reach here. He throws with just as much output. He has a better footwork. Obviously, he has devastating leg kicks, which were a huge part of the game plan in the first fight. I think that's going to be a huge part of the game plan in the second fight, just because like obviously Max Holloway's had an unbelievable career, but when have we ever really seen him make huge changes camp to camp? Like he always kind of looks the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's his game. That's his. Yeah.
and also as you have I have talked about before we started this, he's been taking a ton of damage in the last couple of years. Like the second Aldo fight, he ate 90 significant strikes, got wobbled. The Ortega fight, he ate 110 significant strikes, got wobbled. Ate 180 significant strikes versus Poirier, got wobbled, almost finished multiple times. Ate 100 significant strikes versus Frankie Edgar, which, I mean, come on. And
Yep.
I mean, maybe 10 years ago, that's fine, but not now. And then just
Not in 2019.
Yeah, just ate 160 significant strikes from Volkanovski. So, I mean, that's almost, I mean, holy crap. That's over 600 strikes in
I was
his
gonna
last fight.
say, yeah, that's
Way
yeah.
over. It's close to 700.
No,
So,
thank you.
obviously, he's still young years wise, but man, fight years, I think he's kind of starting to go down that tail end of his career. And besides that, it's just a brutal matchup, like I talked about in the first fight. I think Volkanovski's better everywhere, besides possibly output in the later rounds. But even then, the striking was just about even in the last 2 rounds. The narrative that Max really found his groove and was taking over is complete bullshit.
Nope. He just was landing more. That's what it is. People don't know what they're looking at. Like just because he's
even then they landed the same strikes in the 4th round, and Max landed 2 more strikes in the 5th round. So there's no come on, that narrative is not there. And you and I also talked about this. That I think Max has been acting weird since his loss to Volkanovski, and he's been acting especially this weird in his interviews.
Like almost nostalgic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
been saying a lot of weird shit. Like he almost doesn't seem as motivated as he like that killer instinct almost seems a little bit gone. And against a guy like Volkanovski, I think he's one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world, especially now that Cejudo's retired. He's a really special talent, unbelievable fight IQ, unbelievable in-fight changes that he makes with his coaches. And I just think he's a bad matchup here. And he scored over 100 points in a decision win the first time. I think there's a good chance he gets Max out of here this second fight. Volkanovski's been talking all his interviews about how he feels disrespected by Max and the fans, that he's not getting the credit, and that he really wants to put a statement on this fight. And I actually think that's going to happen. I think I'm going to pick Volkanovski to get a late 4th round finish. And he's great for all cash, GPP, head-to-head, you name it. Just know he's going to be very chalky. He's going to be over 40%.
Yep.
But obviously,
minimum.
Obviously 100% stack this fight in cash. Don't even second guess it. And then I also kind of like it in GPP because it got over 180 points in the first fight combined. And if that does this again, I mean, if let's say Volkanovski puts up around the same, scores 105, Holloway scores 70, like that's a damn good score in GPP. It's just I think the stack's going to be really popular in GPP. So if you're already playing like a Jan or Usman or Andrade and then you stack, it's just you have no chance at all to separate yourself from the pack. So I don't mind it. It's just I prefer the stack in GPP. And then with Holloway, like I think if he makes it to a decision, he could definitely score. He scored 67 in their first fight in a loss. He could even
scored 90 against Dustin, against DP.
Yeah, he could probably score upwards to 90 in a loss. And obviously in a win, he would put up huge numbers. So I think there's actually a decent shot that Holloway ends up on the optimal lineup in a loss, which is why the stack's in playing GPP. It's just I can't pick him here after I picked Volkanovski to dominate the first fight. I think he's going to do it even more so here. So give me lots of Volkanovski, but lots of this fight in general, because like you said, that Holloway could put up a big time score in a loss.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The only, no,
like if you like Max to win this fight, I mean, I would basically suggest like almost being all in, because at that salary with a huge upside in a win, but also a 90 point possibility in a loss, like if you have 80-90% of them, if you think he's going to win, like that's going to help a lot. Let's say he's 45%, you think Holloway will be 40, something like that.
Yeah, he'll be about 40.
Yeah, so if you're really heavy on Holloway, both just straight up pick and as a Draftkings play, I think it makes sense to be extremely overweight to the field.
Yep, I agree. And the only thing that I was thinking about is Max, man, like it's just that attitude is worrisome, bro, because I think he's also seeing like Cejudo retire on top. He's seeing these guys retire on top, and it's like he's got to be pretty much like, I'll fight for that title, and I ain't gonna, like, why would he come back out here and fight if again and try to gain the title back? Like, bro, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to do that. So I don't know. It's just I think he might be feeling that a little bit too. But yeah, anything else you want to touch on real quick before we move on to the main event?
I think that's gonna do it for the co-main.
Yep, yep, cool. All right, so
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm
next,
sorry. Real
yeah,
quickly, I do
yep.
have the stack and the cash for on the
Oh,
drafting sheet, but we did basically say it's 100% stack.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, yeah, definitely good to note. And always you can find the cheat sheet either in the chat that you that we're in or on Twitter. On
Yep,
both of our Twitters, we'll always retweet it.
yep.
But that is 100% E's baby. So you can definitely find it on his page. And yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we got the main event. Finally, we got the main event here. Coming in on 6 days notice, right? If you haven't heard already, he's coming in on 6 days
Yep.
notice. Jorge, man, Jorge Masvidal. More importantly, my man got that check, man. He's getting
Amen.
paid.
Yep.
And it's funny. He's like, yeah, I'm happy I'm getting paid, but I'm just not happy I had to come in at 6 days
I
notice and
saw
lose
that.
20 pounds. And I was like, that's like, but I don't blame him, man. I don't blame him. But I'm happy he got his money. I'm happy he's getting his title shot and all that good stuff. Because to be honest, I was starting to worry we might not see him fight again. And he's one of
Yeah,
my
same
favorite
here.
fighters to watch. So
Yep. Yep.
so happy they worked that out. But he's going up against a dog, man. You got Kamaru Usman. He is 8,900 on DraftKings, and he probably should be the heaviest favorite. But when these short notice fights come in, things get wonky. He is currently the minus 230 favorite, and then Jorge is the plus 210 dog here. Welterweight title on the line. Kamaru was supposed to fight his teammate Gilbert, but Gilbert actually got COVID, man. It's some crazy
Yeah.
shit. And I saw a tweet from him saying he's doing good, so prayers up to him.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean this one's as far as the breakdown goes, like we could talk about this one forever, but as far as the DraftKings breakdown goes, it's actually pretty simple.
Yep.
I feel like Usman's gonna be the play here. He's got all the recipe. He's got everything you need. He's got the wrestling. He's got the relentless wrestling because he'll keep going. He'll advance. He's gonna give you significant strikes. A lot of people think he has like a slow, like boring, methodical approach, but
I
it's
don't
like, I mean, I
understand
don't
that at
know.
all.
I
Yeah.
don't either. It's like I don't know what you want. I don't know what you
People
want,
did the
man.
same thing with Colby, Khabib, all like Curtis Blades. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, seriously. I just, I don't get it. But he's definitely got the style to put up huge numbers here. But I'll say this, man, it's something that's just been like it's just been on my mind. It's just the saying too. It's like if there's ever been a live dog, Jorge Masvidal is that live dog, man. I
Yeah.
mean, he's as live as any dog, that you're really gonna see, man. And not even just like matchup wise really that he can give Usman problems, like just he's a gamer. Like you talk
Yeah.
about somebody who's gonna fight for your money, like Jorge's gonna go out there and fight for your money, man. You can guarantee it. But also his takedown defense really isn't that bad. Like he's
No.
got some grappling, he's got some wrestling, but I think he's outmatched here.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters if he came in on short notice or not. I think he was going to be outmatched here, and I just see Usman winning this more times than not. So that's going to be my pick here, and I'll be pretty heavy on Usman, and I will have Jorge as like some hedge plays. It's interesting because I don't know if I'll be able to go 100% on this fight with everything else that's going on. Let's say theoretically I was able to, I'd probably be about 70-30. But I don't think I'll be able to do that. So I'm not sure really how my ownership will work out on this one. But that's the pick. What do you got here, bro?
Yeah. Well, it's no secret that I can be very critical of Jorge on Twitter, but that doesn't have anything to do with his fighting skills. It more has to
Oh,
do with his recent act and his
his
honestly more,
tact.
yeah, more with his management team and what they've tried to turn him into. But that's here nor there. But I love that dude as a fighter. Insanely good boxing, one of the best boxers in the UFC. Highly underrated grappling, really sneaky chokes. Um, Great flying knees, as we saw in the Ben Askren fight. Much improved cardio. Like you said, he's going to go out there and fight his ass off for your money. It's just there's not a single human on this planet that would beat to pick Kamaru Usman on 6 days' notice. So, because as we know with Usman, I mean, he's one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world. Unbelievable wrestling, non-stop chain takedowns, great cardio, high output striking on the feet, even though it's not the best, and he does get hit a lot. But I mean, as we've
He's got a
seen with his
chin though too, man. Because
yeah,
Colby was hitting him
Kobe
with some
with
shots.
bombs, yeah. Kobe hit him with a
Yeah,
few bombs.
Yeah.
So, but as we see with his DraftKings score with Usman, I mean, it's just pure gold. 148, 132, 176, 173, which was Maya, but nobody really scores well against Maya. 116, 108, 101, 193.
Holy
So,
shit.
especially in a 5-round fight, we've seen what his scores have been like ever since in his last 3 fights: 176, 132, 148, and at 8,900. Like, I don't care who Usman's fighting, I'm going to have lots of him at that salary every time. So I'm probably going to have I'm going to probably have over 70% Usman. But like you said, I'm going to run it back with a minimum of 22 to 25% Masvidal at worst, because he is very live here. I actually think he has a better chance to win this fight than Gilbert Burns did, just because he's, in my opinion, he's more dangerous in the areas that Usman's lacking that Gilbert was. So
he was gonna ragdoll. He was gonna ragdoll Gilbert, bro.
Yeah, big time.
They just did want to. They just did want to put it on camera so they could sell the fight still.
Yeah. So
but
definitely have some shots of Jorge, but Usman is a play here. Just know that he's probably going to be the chalkiest fighter on the slate. And
chalky, 40,
and
50, maybe higher.
Yeah, and there is a slight chance that he gets KO'd cold right away, and I mean that would just
holy shit
break the entire slate. But I'm gonna have tons of Usman. He's the third member of the GPP core on the sheet with Makwan Amerikani and Volkan Ozdemir. He's also part of the cash core. I mean, all the upside in the world here. Just you definitely gonna have to run it back with some Jorge, because, like we said, he definitely has a path to victory. And at that salary at 7,300, I mean, he's gonna be an optimal lineup. On Fanduel, we have Usman as the most expensive salary at $22. But obviously, with his style, he makes a great play, especially with a captain spot. And then we have Masvidal down at 12. So insanely cheap. And if he went, I'm sorry, no, he's not. He's all the way up at 18. So we have Usman at 22 and then Masvidal at 18. I don't love Masvidal's salary on FanDuel. Like, I don't really understand why he's all the way up at $18, which is the same price as Volkanovski. I don't get where that's coming from. So I'm definitely
FanDuel does it again.
Yeah, I'm not gonna have much of, if any, of Masvidal on FanDuel. Maybe 1 of 5 lineups just for the KO upside, but give me all the Usman on DraftKings with some Masvidal running it back. Give me all the Usman on FanDuel, and on FanDuel I have little to no interest of Masvidal just because he's priced so highly.
Yep. I mean, I'm with you, man. Hopefully we can make some money at the end of this night, because I feel like I really feel like we've been able to really pinpoint kind of what the field's gonna do, what the sharps are gonna do, what we're gonna do. Hopefully it works out. These fights can go either way, and if you guys have any questions, you can definitely hit us up. But that'll do it for UFC 251 Fight Island. Is there anything else you want to leave with before we say peace out?
I think the last thing we should touch on, especially when we have 3 title fights that will be so heavily owned, that if you roster a lot of fighters from the prelims or maybe the first 2 fights of the main card, like, don't get too excited if you go 6-0 with your lineup, because those last 3 fights, I mean, everything's going to change very, very quickly. So that's, like I said, just don't get too excited if you see your lineup get up to a big time start. But other than that, it's a good week to make a bunch of lineups, just because there's so many fighters that are in play here. And obviously it's a good week for cash with the 3 title fights. And I hope everybody crushes and had a blast breaking down the card with you.
Yeah, man, for sure. We might have to do the video a little more often, man. It was pretty dope.
Sounds good to me.
But yeah, yes. Again, you guys have any questions? If you know where we are, you know where you can find us. We're in a couple of chats. We're also always available on Twitter. You can DM or whatever you need. We're always available. But other than that, I think we're gonna sign off here. And thanks everybody for sticking with us. Peace. Good luck. Win some money.